Hi everyone, I am Minu, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Christu Jayanti College. So in today's session, we will try to explore cultural studies and politics in India today, which is based on Bhaskar Mukhopadhyaya's critical analysis. So this particular session will introduce you to the evolution of cultural studies in India, especially its ideological influences and its engagement with popular culture and politics. So the first section I would like to talk about the inception of cultural studies in India, focusing on the origin and the ideological influences. So as you all know, cultural studies in India began with the inception of a journal titled as Journal of Arts and Ideas in the early 1980s. And this particular period coincided with the rise of television and consumerism in India. And the journal tried to align with the mainstream left, and it was definitely influenced by Western Marxism, which always tried to re-examine Indian modernism and popular culture. Now I would like to explore the impact of emergency, that is from 1975 to 77. So Indira Gandhi's imposition of the emergency led to the suppression of some democratic institution, and the left's reliance on electoral politics definitely rendered them ineffective in resisting autocracy. And Jayaprakash Narayan, the Gandhian political spirituality, emerged as an alternative that tries to destabilize the left's stronghold. And this emergency period pushed Indian cultural studies to reconsider its approach to popular culture beyond the electoral politics. Now, how the leftist intervention and this IPTA's role in the cultural policy. So IPTA means the Indian People's Theatre Association, that was established in the year 1940s, that marked the beginning of leftist cultural interventions in India, and that was influenced by the socialist realism model of the USSR. And this IPTA aimed to develop a very progressive secular Indian modernism that integrated vernacular and folk traditions, and along with institutionalization of Nehru's time period, that also should be considered. And this IPTA influenced the Nehruvian cultural vision that leads to creation of a centralized cultural institutions like Sankirna Academy, which was modeled on the French Academy, and we had National School of Drama that was quite inspired by Britain's RADA. And then what are the critical reflections of the time? So over the time period, Nehru's cultural policies moved from socialism to patronage, and that weakened his initial vision due to the political compromises. Now I would like to explore more on Bollywood, the popular culture, and this how it create a kind of cultural identity. So Bollywood definitely emerged as a powerful force that shaped our national identity and popular culture. Unlike the avant-garde cinema, this Bollywood functioned as a cultural unifier without particular state support. And Bollywood and South Indian cinema share the theme of feudal family romance. Most of the movies, they have explored the theme of feudal family romance. Films like Roja and Fire that sparked nation-wide debates, extending the discussions on culture beyond academia. And the concept of darshan in Indian cinema is another aspect that I would like to explore. Indian cinema integrates the traditional concepts of darshan, that is a sacred gaze, creating a unique cinematic experience that engages directly with the spectator's knowledge and cultural imagination. And then, when we look at this, we can ask a question to ourselves: how does this Bollywood's portrayal of the national popular challenge the Western cinematic norms? You can just explore this question. And now we can move on the divergence of film and television studies. So what is the difference between these two? Film studies traditionally focus on textual and narrative analysis, but while television studies emphasize audience reception and the political impact. So Raj Gopal's study in the year 2001, and in that particular study, his analysis highlighted how televised Hindu epics in the 1990s dissolved split publics into a unified audience and which facilitated Hindutva mobilization. And Rajagopal's approach has been critiqued, not fully explaining why television, this impact intensified identity politics in India, but still it has created a kind of impact. And then how this Western influence and indigenous art forms are influenced, or let's say modernity versus tradition in Indian art forms. So Indian modern art that has often been framed through binary opposition between the corrosive modernity and reassuring tradition. And Pinney's study explores how Hindu religious imagery became more real through mechanical reproduction and Western oil painting techniques, especially introducing the concept of corpothetics, that is, sensory and bodily engagement with images. So, does the binary between tradition and modernity adequately capture the complexity of Indian art and culture? So, this is a question for you, and just try to explore it. And when we move towards challenge to English literature and criticism of cultural studies, how this shift from English literature to cultural studies happen. So early post-colonial critiques like The Mask of Conquest and Rethinking English, all these works question the dominance of English studies and especially its role in perpetuating the colonial ideologies. And Dhareshwar, and he critiqued that the Western cultural studies were focusing on trivial topics like Star Trek and rap and advocating for an authentic self-description of Indian culture. And what are the key challenges? So obviously, how can Indian cultural studies balance the need for authentic representation while avoiding this kind of nativist tendencies? And then when we move towards the political spectacle and electoral mobilization, how this techno-mythologization in Indian politics happened. And Mukhopadhyay, he highlights the evolution of political spectacle in India, especially the religious and cinematic symbols merge in electoral mobilization. And according to him, the events like Advani's Toyota Ratha Yatra exemplify the fusion of high-tech with sacred imagery, and it tries to redefine the political aesthetics in India. And again, there is a question for you: is Indian electoral mobilization a reflection of modern spectacle or a deeper cultural phenomenon? So to conclude this